Good morning. With this meeting this morning with Neta Wenrick, who is an expert in Medicare planning. And we have a couple of questions for her this morning. First, I'd like to understand exactly what her business is. Neta, how long have you been doing this and how do you counsel people?
I've been working with seniors for 35 years. I've been working with Medicare for the last 2.5 years. So what I do, first of all, is I find out, do they need to enroll in Medicare? If they have an employer plan, maybe they don't need to enroll yet. So once they are ready to enroll, I help them enroll in Medicare. And then we very simply find the best Medicare plan for them. So it could be a Medigap plan, one of the supplements, or it could be one of the Medicare Advantage plans. So it's pretty simple what I do, just help walk people through the process.
And what's the difference between an Advantage plan and original Medicare?
So original Medicare, which is Part A and B, is only covers 80% of your medical expenses. So anytime you have any medical issues, you're going to be responsible for 20% of those costs, which could end up being thousands of dollars. So with the Medicare Advantage plan, those are the HMO plans. And what happens is they cover pretty much all of that 20%. There are a few copays, but for the most part, there's zero copay for pretty much anything here in Orange County. And especially for hospitalization, it's usually zero copay for unlimited days. So, and there are, here in Orange County, there are no extra premiums. So you're getting, for the same amount of money that you are paying for original Medicare, you get much better coverage.
So what's the advantage of the original plan?
It's kind of the basis. You have to have the original Medicare before we can do anything else. So it's a beginning. You really need more than original Medicare if you're going to be fully covered.
Okay, good. And you know, obviously, long-term care is a subject that people should be paying attention to when they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s. Your experience, how much does Medicare pay for on as far as long-term care expenses are concerned?
Well, when it comes to like skilled nursing care, Medicare, any plan covers 20 days, 100%. So if you were to go into a skilled facility for care, you're going to be covered for that 20% or for that 20 days. And then after that, depending on which plan you are, Medicare will cover 80% for up to 100 days. And then there's usually a copay, $50 to $100 a day, depending on your plan. But after that 100 days, Medicare says, okay, you're there for the long haul. You know, you're going to be there maybe for the rest of your life, and they don't cover anything after that 100 days.
Well, so that can get quite expensive for anybody who has a severe disability, huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great misunderstanding that Medicare covers long-term care. You know, I've talked to people that say, oh, my mother's going into skilled care or she's going into assisted living or boarding care. You know, Medicare will cover that. And I have to say, no, Medicare doesn't cover that at all. So, yeah.
It must be quite a shock to people when they see what the price tag is after the 100 days.
It is. It is. And, you know, generally, if you don't have any insurance, I mean, you're talking $300 a day probably. With a Medicare plan up to that 100 days, at least it's a little less. But beyond that, you know, it's quite expensive. It's thousands and thousands of dollars every month.
Uh, I'm sure that's a shock to families when they have to put mom into care.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially if it's assisted living or board and care, because there's hardly any there federal plans that will cover it. Veterans Aid and Attendance will cover some of it if they, you know, are eligible. But other than that, you're kind of on your own.
How does one become eligible for Medi-Cal or Medicare? No, Medicaid.
Medicaid. Yeah. So it's really dependent on your income and your assets. So I think right now it's about $18,000 a year income, which is pretty limited. And then assets, it depends on, you know, there are things you can do with your assets, but they really do look at your income very, very strictly, so I do have Medi-Cal people that I work with that answer those questions. So yeah, and that's what happens for the most part. People end up going onto Medi-Cal because they've not planned for that long-term care. So it doesn't bankrupt a spouse like it used to. You get to keep the house and the car and so much money to live on, but it's still it's pretty drastic.
Well, thank you very much for your insight, Nita.
Thank you.